Introduction. The Israel-Palestine conflict stands as one of the most enduring and complex geopolitical dilemmas of the modern era. Rooted in a deep history of territorial disputes, religious differences, and competing national aspirations, this conflict has defied resolution for decades. The United Nations (UN) has played a multifaceted role in attempting to address this conflict, employing diplomatic, humanitarian, and legal means to foster peace and justice in the region. This comprehensive analysis will explore the various ways in which the UN engages with the Israel-Palestine conflict, examining its peacekeeping efforts, advocacy for a two-state solution, provision of humanitarian assistance, Security Council resolutions, and involvement in International Criminal Court (ICC) investigations. By delving into these dimensions, this document seeks to elucidate the challenges and opportunities inherent in the UN's role in mediating this protracted conflict. 2. Historical context. To understand the complexities of the Israel-Palestine conflict, it is essential to delve into its historical roots. The origins of the conflict can be traced back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with the rise of Zionism and Arab nationalism amidst the decline of the Ottoman Empire. The Balfour Declaration of 1917, in which the British government expressed support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, laid the groundwork for competing claims to the land. The subsequent waves of Jewish immigration to Palestine, coupled with the Arab rejection of Zionist aspirations, sowed the seeds of conflict that would erupt into violence following the partition of Palestine by the United Nations in 1947. The creation of the State of Israel in 1948 and the ensuing Arab-Israeli wars further entrenched the territorial and ideological divisions between Israelis and Palestinians, setting the stage for decades of strife and suffering. 3. Peacekeeping and mediation efforts. One of the primary roles of the United Nations in addressing the Israel-Palestine conflict has been to facilitate peacekeeping and mediation efforts aimed at resolving the underlying grievances and achieving a durable peace agreement. The establishment of the United Nations Truce Supervision Organization (UNTSO) in 1948 marked the UN's first foray into peacekeeping in the region, tasked with overseeing the armistice agreements between Israel and its Arab neighbors. Subsequent peacekeeping missions, such as the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force (UNDOF) in the Golan Heights and the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon (UNIFIL), have sought to mitigate tensions and prevent further escalation of conflicts in the region. Additionally, the UN has played a pivotal role in facilitating direct negotiations between Israeli and Palestinian leaders, most notably during the Oslo peace process in the 1990s and the subsequent Camp David summit in 2000. Despite these efforts, the path to peace remains fraught with obstacles, including territorial disputes, security concerns, and deep-seated mistrust between the parties involved. 4. Security Council resolutions. The United Nations Security Council has been at the forefront of international efforts to address the Israel-Palestine conflict, issuing numerous resolutions aimed at promoting peace, security, and stability in the region. These resolutions have covered a wide range of issues, including the status of Jerusalem, the legality of Israeli settlements in the occupied territories, and the rights of Palestinian refugees. Resolution 242, adopted in the aftermath of the Six-Day War in 1967, called for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from territories occupied during the conflict and the recognition of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all states in the region. Similarly, Resolution 338, passed in 1973 following the Yom Kippur War, called for an immediate ceasefire and negotiations aimed at achieving a just and lasting peace settlement. Despite the issuance of these and other resolutions, however, their implementation has often been hampered by political disagreements, competing interests, and a lack of enforcement mechanisms. Moreover, The veto power wielded by permanent members of the Security Council has limited the UN's ability to take decisive action on issues related to the Israel-Palestine conflict, further complicating efforts to resolve the long-standing disputes. The humanitarian assistance. In addition to its diplomatic and peacekeeping efforts, the United Nations has played a vital role in providing humanitarian assistance to Palestinians living in the occupied territories, where widespread poverty, unemployment, and food insecurity persist. UN agencies such as the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, have been instrumental in delivering essential services, including food aid, healthcare, education, and shelter support, to Palestinian refugees and internally displaced persons. Despite facing funding shortages and operational challenges, UNRWA continues to serve as a lifeline for millions of vulnerable Palestinians, offering hope and dignity in the face of adversity. Moreover, the UN has worked closely with international partners and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, to address the root causes of poverty and deprivation in the occupied territories, advocating for the lifting of restrictions on movement and access, the promotion of economic development and job creation, and the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Why? Advocacy for a two-state solution. Central to the United Nations approach to resolving the Israel-Palestine conflict is the promotion of a two-state solution, which envisions the creation of an independent and sovereign Palestinian state alongside Israel, with borders based on the pre-1967 lines and East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. This solution, endorsed by the international community and enshrined in numerous UN resolutions, is widely viewed as the most viable path to achieving a just and lasting peace in the region. The UN has consistently reaffirmed its commitment to the two-state solution and called upon the parties to engage in meaningful negotiations aimed at reaching a comprehensive agreement that addresses the core issues of the conflict, including borders, security, refugees, and Jerusalem. Despite the considerable challenges and setbacks encountered along the way, the UN remains steadfast in its belief that a negotiated settlement based on the principles of international law, mutual recognition, and respect for the rights and aspirations of both peoples is essential for the realization of a peaceful and prosperous future for Israelis and Palestinians alike. 7. International Criminal Court, ICC, investigation. In recent years, there have been growing calls for accountability and justice for alleged human rights abuses and violations of international law committed by both Israeli and Palestinian authorities in the context of the Israel-Palestine conflict. The International Criminal Court, ICC, as the principal judicial organ of the United Nations, has been tasked with investigating and prosecuting individuals suspected of committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. In 2015, the State of Palestine acceded to the Rome Statute, thereby granting the ICC jurisdiction over crimes committed on its territory since the 13th of June 2014. Subsequently, the ICC prosecutor launched a preliminary examination into the situation in Palestine to determine whether there is a reasonable basis to proceed with a formal investigation. This decision has sparked controversy and debate, with some arguing that the ICC lacks jurisdiction over the alleged crimes and others expressing concern about the politicization of international justice. Nevertheless, the ICC's involvement in the Israel-Palestine conflict underscores the imperative of holding perpetrators accountable and ensuring that justice is served for victims of human rights violations and atrocities. 8. Challenges and obstacles. Despite the United Nations' concerted efforts to address the Israel-Palestine conflict, numerous challenges and obstacles continue.